This is a really good passage, again, reinforcing this idea that a lot of religion originates in imagination, a lot of spirituality, a lot of spiritual systems. This right here is going to, and also how we cannot make a parallel between ancient African beliefs and modern European beliefs, right? And you're going to see even this European admits it, right? So it says, when their creative work was accomplished, the eight primordials died and were buried um, at Medinet Habu across from Thebes. A small temple still stands at their burial place, to which Ammon of Luxor went every 10 days in order to make offerings to them. The idea that a god might die is incompatible with our way of thinking, remarks the great Egyptologist Erman. But he later acknowledges the true sense of all the subtleties gathered here escapes our uninitiated minds. And this is in Religion des Egyptiens, right? It is indeed difficult to admit that the death of a god, considering our interpretation of this word, once again, our conception must be turned upside down in order to penetrate to the depths of pharaonic thought. For the ancients, the word nature referred to active principles, to the causes of phenomena. This word has been translated as God. Consequently, people speak of pharaonic gods, and herein lies a source of confusion. To deists, God is the creator, to whom they attribute a free will similar to man's, but situated outside of the world, right? This is not the concept pharaonic Egypt attached to the term neter, seeing that a clear distinction was made between metaphysical neters, cosmic neters, and the neters responsible for natural facts that concerned humanity. These principles are anthropomorphized, but they are not humanized, as are the gods of Olympus, for example. So again, he's like, you know, the Greeks didn't even understand it. But again, I just want to reemphasize the gods here died, okay? Or the Neters died. All right. But that's not even something that's in the concepts of people who now confuse African thought with European thought. And then and then they say, oh well, the gods are here still, and all that kind of, or Africans had to. But then it's like you realize it's a totally different concept. But we're gonna keep reading, right? The principle of neter is not a participating agent; it only designates a mode of action. The neters are the law of divine harmony. They direct the affinities in concordance. They give rise to forms and signatures, command the phases of becoming and its return to the source. They characterize life. Thus, the neters are conscious principles, but they are without free will, without the faculty of deliberate choice. Again, you see, it's like they're describing scientific phenomena. Okay, the philosophy descriptive of nature of the neters is transmitted through legends which vary with each main center temple. Okay, then we're going to go over here. Just going to finish this up. Because the same mode of action or principle changes its aspects according to the medium upon which it bears the action, which it bears. The action of fire, for instance, will be different on fire, on water, on air, and on solid bodies, right? Fire acts different with fire, fire acts different on water, it acts different on air, whatever medium, right? Like it could burn a person, but it won't do anything to water. So, you don't just generally say fire has this one principle or this one mode. You realize that it's contextualized. And then, of course, you can make a story about it. The nature of fire, how it interacts with the nature of water, how it interacts with the nature of air, so on and so forth, right? And again, this is just a didactic, like a way of didacticism, a way of pedagogy, a way of teaching people science. It's not as the theists of today or the deists of today formulated. And I'll just wrap up this one chapter where it says, thus, in the mystery of Heliopolis, Amun is the abstract principle. Now, if you guys know about Amun, Amun is the one that a lot of the ancient Africans recognize, right? So, thus, in the mystery of Heliopolis, Amun is the abstract principle, he whose name is hidden. Hermopolis, he becomes the breath that animates air and wind. We have seen before that Kem, sorry, it's just this reflection. That Kematef, he who has accomplished his time is said to have died, and also said to be Amun of Karnak himself. This apparent contradiction stems from the misinterpretation of the word dead. When activity has produced its fruit, it stops being. As such, since it has fixed itself within the fruit, right? So that principle that makes an apple grow into an apple um, stops. Now, obviously, you could say, the apple begins to disintegrate, and so that principle would continue. But again, but of course, then you might also say, if you're being scientific, that another force takes over, right? There's one force that's giving the apple life, and one force giving the apple death. And then you could perhaps anthropomorphize that and make it into some sort of struggle between these two principles. But again, you would not have free will. It would not be something as actively choosing to make the apple strong versus, or the apple full versus the apple empty. It's realistically just a scientific principle, and just retold, kind of like a children's story for children to understand scientific principles. It's actually an easy and effective way. We don't personally do it, but that to say that the ancients wouldn't have is another thing. But again, I do, obviously I do want to get to this mystery of thieves. That sounds pretty interesting. But if you, by the way, if you guys don't know, thieves, that is Waset. So sometimes when I talk about uh, Uncle John, no. Sometimes when I talk about Boko na Boko Boko Karu na Waset, right? Waset is thieves. So in fact, thieves, if I'm not mistaken, so Karnak, I want you guys to know, understand that too. Karnak is Waset, okay? And I can't remember, but I feel like thieves is also Waset. They'll probably tell us. Actually, it says right here. You see that? See thieves in the capital of Waset, right? So that's West. So this is going to be pretty interesting. But other than that, yeah, again, they had a concept of a god dying, right? This is not the same, or they had the concept of a nature dying, right? This is not the same as the theism that you see today. That's really unscientific and doesn't reflect reality. And I want people to really grasp that. I realize this, that a lot of our world, a lot of the currency of the world, a lot of the social schemes of the world are imaginary, but they should reflect reality. Okay. Imagination, when it doesn't reflect reality, is detrimental. So when somebody's lying to you, when they're trying to deceive you, when they're trying, that's detrimental. Okay. However, when somebody's telling you the truth, or somebody telling you the truth to the best of their ability, or to the best of, or to the ways that can really get your um like could complement your reality, or so on and so forth, right? That's good. So like for instance, um if there's a jump, right? This is like, oh, like for instance, like if my son wants to walk across a bridge, because a lot of the roads were underdeveloped, some places that we went, and he didn't feel confident, I could say, hey, look, it's no harm will come from you, or it's safe to walk that bridge, right? Now, has he walked the bridge already? No. Right? Is it perfectly safe on the other side of the bridge? You can't say for sure until it happens, right? um can he cross the bridge without falling? I mean, I believe so, but is that something that's reflected in reality, that a reality that didn't come yet? No. However, when you tell him that you are saying it to the best of your ability. Now, if I could also say, don't, like, it's really unsafe and you will fall and die or some shit, right? And that would be, like, that would be bad, right? So again, why we say that's bad. So you have to, when we talk about this imagination, right, which is, when we talk about this imagination versus this reality, we have to realize that imagination should go around reality. And when you study the origins of the deists, right, and really Atenism, in a sense, right, when you study the origin of the deists, you realize that they begin to lie about the creativeness and the creativity of this particular deity, and that becomes anti-scientific, it becomes ascientific, and it doesn't really reflect the real kind of studies that ancient Africans had done and really formulated over the course of thousands of years, only to be dismissed by nonsense of let's say, you can pray and people will get better. You can't do that. Okay, you can't do that.